What's up YouTube? I'm Roman, and in today's video we're going to be talking about why you need an emergency fund and how much you should have saved in it. Make sure to stick around to the end to hear about how an embarrassing moment at the airport with my father-in-law prompted me to start my own emergency fund. Now, if the last year has taught us anything, it's that the only certainty is uncertainty. Life can happen at any moment and derail even our best laid plans. Even though most of us know that these things can happen over time, the loss of a job, a sickness in the family, or even just car trouble, they still inject extra stress into our lives. This is one of the reasons that having an emergency fund is essential. When something unexpected turns your life upside down momentarily, having cash stashed away to weather the storm allows you to focus on the emergency at hand instead of the financial consequences, and it keeps you from taking on costly debt. In the fortunate case that you never have to use your emergency fund, just having it available to you offers up a peace of mind that makes things nice. So, how much should you have put away in your emergency fund? Most experts suggest that something between 3 and 6 months of your expenses saved up is appropriate. Like most things in personal finance, where you specifically fall on the spectrum is personal. If you've got a reliable job and no added risk factors, then perhaps 3 months worth of expenses is enough to have saved up. However, if your income is sporadic, your job is unstable, or you have some added risk factors in your life, or perhaps a big life transition coming up, then maybe something along the lines of 6 months or more worth of expenses is more appropriate in your case. If you're single and childless, 3 months might be enough. Whereas if you're married with multiple children, trending towards the 6+ months makes sense. Risk tolerance plays a factor here as well. Somebody that is risk averse is going to want more stashed away. They'll get better peace of mind from it. Whereas somebody with a higher risk tolerance might feel better with 3 months expenses and the rest of their cash invested in the market. You can also split the difference. Start with 3 months and see how you feel. If you want to then build it up further, go ahead. Now remember, this money is to cover emergencies, real life emergencies. We're not talking about an unplanned last minute trip to Hawaii or the designer shoes that just came out that you just have to have. Real emergencies only for this account. Those planned expenses should be budgeted ahead of time. As promised, a real quick story about what got me serious about building up my own emergency fund. Some of you might know that my wife and I were married early. She was 19 and I was 20, and I whisked her away to come and join me in Italy shortly after we got married. 19 years old and separated from her family. At the end of our first trip back to the United States to visit family, about a year after we'd been married, we got hung up at the airport. My wife didn't have the required visa, and the only way they were going to allow her back into Italy is if we showed proof that she would be returning to the United States within 90 days. The problem here is that the return ticket cost $2,000 and we were still living paycheck to paycheck. Our emergency savings fund was in a state of emergency itself. So I had two options. I could either leave my wife back home in Michigan while I sorted out her visa and lived alone in Italy, or I could swallow my pride and ask my father-in-law, who was at the airport with us, for a loan. Talk about embarrassing. Less than a year earlier, some punk kid had stolen his daughter off, his 19-year-old daughter, off to Italy to live with him, and now he needed a loan. I felt horrible. But of course we wanted her to return to Italy with us, and luckily my father-in-law was both gracious enough and prepared enough himself to help us out and buy a refundable ticket for Brittany to return to the States. It was a super humbling moment that made me reflect about the situation that I was in financially. As soon as we got back to Italy, we got Brittany's visa squared away. We refunded the ticket that he had purchased for us so that we could pay him back, and we got to work getting our emergency fund all set up, and we never looked back. Having an emergency fund means we can deal with the issue at hand instead of worrying about money. Let me know by commenting down below if you've got an emergency fund or if you've ever had an instance that made you wish that you had like I did. If you like content like this where we talk about personal finance, frugality, money tips, and financial independence, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We release new videos every single week. If you got any value from this video, make sure to give it a like. That helps with the YouTube algorithm so we can get this information in front of more people and get more people thinking about intentionally managing their money to make their lives better and reduce worry and stress. Next week, we're going to be talking about where you should be keeping your emergency fund, so make sure that you tune in for that. Until then, thanks a lot for watching, and make sure to put your money where your values are.